What did your family do that made you ashamed to be related to them? My sister Georgia was 7 months pregnant with her miracle baby when she got spiked and taken advantage of by one of her closest male friends. She regained consciousness 12 hours later, now with a flat belly, bruising near her nether regions, and dried blood all around her thighs. The guy got off on a suspended sentence. I became pregnant 18 months ago, and Georgia saw this as her miracle boy being reborn in my womb. She showed up to the hospital while I was in labor with fake documents. She's a surrogate. I'm the real mother. My parents were right there backing her up. Georgia tried to literally rip my baby out of my arms when the nurses wouldn't listen to her. For the next week, Georgia visited daily and called herself Mama in front of everyone. She'd take hundreds of photos and post them online as her newborn. It got so overwhelming I had to block her, but she retaliated by filing a false CPS report. While the worker was at our house, Georgia showed up with our parents. "We're concerned too," they said. Georgia even had a black eye painted on with makeup. Her husband gave this to me, but I chose not to press charges because he was drinking heavily and didn't mean it. The worker called me and my husband in for an interview. Sam was placed with Georgia during the investigation. I spent every second fearing my baby would be taken away from me, but 2 weeks later, our names were finally cleared. My husband and I drove to Georgia's house where we found Sam basically incapacitated in his crib. My husband physically restrained Georgia, and as I scooped Sam up into my arms, he instinctively hugged me and buried his head into my chest. Georgia screamed, "I'm gonna get him back," as we were leaving. 7 days later, I woke up to our nanny cam detecting motion in our daughter's room. Georgia was holding Sam, who was already crying. She used the spare key I forgot she had, and was humming a lullaby telling him mommy's here. When I whisper screamed at her, she told me to be quiet because I would wake Josh up. Not Sam, Josh, the boy she was meant to give birth to all those years ago. She only handed Sam back to me because I called the police. My husband and I went straight to court. We filed a restraining order, but the judge denied it. He said there was no credible threat of violence shown, and it didn't help that my parents took her side during the testimony. Sadly for Georgia, her husband filed for divorce after seeing the security footage played in court. Georgia blamed us for that. "You turned him against me. You stole my husband just like you stole my baby." By the time the divorce was settled, Georgia had spent the entire few months planning. She'd gotten our mom to make her a copy of our new house keys, and one night she used them to silently break in. I woke up at 5 a.m. to an empty crib. I panicked harder than I ever had, and after reviewing the nanny footage, I called 911. An Amber Alert was issued as well as a medical emergency warning. The next few days were terrifying. Sam had an autoimmune disease and needed my milk to live. The only reason he'd lived during that 2-week period with Georgia was because I'd given her all the bottles I had. Now Sam didn't have my milk. 72 hours later, the police called me. They found Georgia in an apartment 2 states away. Sam was critically ill and severely dehydrated with his organs beginning to fail. They airlifted Sam to the nearest hospital and told me they couldn't guarantee his survival. While he was in the PICU, a psychiatric evaluation was carried out on Georgia. They found complete false documentation in her apartment, including a fake birth certificate and forged custody papers showing her as the mother. She'd even created a fake social security number for Sam. Her plan was to claim she'd just gotten emergency custody from a neglectful mother. The apartment lease had been established months prior, and she'd already told the landlord she was getting custody of her sister's baby. Now Sam was fighting for his life, and our parents hired Georgia the best lawyer they could afford in the hopes of getting her off on a technicality. Full story on channel linked below.